In due time the boats were lowered, but as standing in his shallop's stern, Ahab just hovered upon the point of the descent. He waved to the mate, who held one of the tackle ropes on deck, and bade him pause. "Starbuck." "Sir?" "For the third time my soul's ship starts upon this voyage, Starbuck." "Aye, sir, thou wilt have it so." "Some ships sail from their ports, and ever afterwards are missing, Starbuck." "Truth, sir, saddest truth. Some men die at ebb tide, some at low water, some at the full of the flood, and I feel now like a billow that's all one crested comb, Starbuck. I am old. Shake hands with me, man." Their hands met, their eyes fastened, Starbuck's tears the glue. "Oh, my captain, noble heart, go not, go not. See, it's a brave man that weeps. How great the agony of the persuasion then." "Lower away!" cried Ahab, tossing the mate's arm from him. "Stand by the crew." In an instant the boat was pulling round close under the stern. "The sharks! The sharks!" cried a voice from the low cabin window there. "Oh, master, my master, come back!" But Ahab heard nothing, for his own voice was high lifted then, and the boat leaped on. Yet the voice spake true, for scarce had he pushed from the ship, when numbers of sharks, seemingly rising from out the dark waters beneath the hull, maliciously snapped at the blades of the oars, every time they dipped in the water, and in this way accompanied the boat with their bites. It is a thing not uncommonly happening to the whaleboats in those swarming seas, the sharks at times apparently following them in the same prescient way that vultures hover over the banners of marching regiments in the east. But these were the first sharks that had been observed by the Pequod since the white whale had been first described. And whether it was that Ahab's crew were all such tiger-yellow barbarians, and therefore their flesh more musky to the senses of the sharks, a matter sometimes well known to affect them. However it was, they seemed to follow that one boat without molesting the others. "Heart of wrought steel," murmured Starbuck, gazing over the side and following with his eyes the receding boat. "Canst thou yet bring boldly to that sight, lowering thy keel among ravening sharks, and followed by them open-mouthed to the chase, and this the critical third day? For when 3 days flow together in one continuous intense pursuit, be sure the first is the morning, the second the noon, and the third the evening at the end of that thing, be that end what it may. Oh, my God, what is this that shoots through me and leaves me so deadly calm, yet expectant, fixed at the top of a shutter? Future things swim before me, as in empty outlines and skeletons. All the past is somehow grown dim. Merry girl, thou fadest in pale glories behind me, boy. I seem to see that, but thy eyes grown wondrous blue. Strange problems of life seem clearing, but clouds sweep between. Is my journey's end coming? My legs feel faint, like his who has footed it all day. Feel thy heart, beats it yet? Stir thyself, Starbuck, stave it off. Move, move, speak aloud. Masthead there. See ye my boy's hand on the hill, crazed aloft there? Keep thy keenest eye upon the boats, mark well the whale. Ho, again! Drive off that hawk. See, he pecks, he tears the vane. Pointing to the red flag flying at the main truck. Ha! He soars away with it. Where's the old man now? Seest thou that sight, O Ahab? Shudder, shudder. The boats had not gone very far when, by a signal from the mastheads, a downward pointed arm, Ahab knew the whale had sounded, but intending to be near him at the next rising, he held on his way a little sideways from the vessel, the becharmed crew maintaining the profoundest silence as the head-beat waves hammered and hammered against the opposing bow. Drive, drive in your nails, O ye waves, to their uttermost heads drive them in. Ye but strike a thing without a lid, and no coffin and no hearse can be mine, and hemp only can kill me. Ha, ha! Suddenly the waters around them slowly swelled in broad circles, then quickly upheaved, as if sideways sliding from a submerged berg of ice, swiftly rising to the surface. A low rumbling sound was heard, a subterraneous hum. And then all held their breaths, as, bedraggled with trailing ropes and harpoons and the lances, a vast form shot lengthwise but obliquely from the sea, shrouded in a thin, drooping veil of mist. It hovered for a moment in the rainbowed air, and then fell swamping back into the deep. Crushed 30 feet upwards, the waters flashed for an instant like heaps of fountains, and then brokenly sank in a shower of flakes, leaving the circling surface creamed like new milk round the marble trunk of the whale. "Give way!" cried Ahab to the oarsmen, and the boat started forward to the attack. But maddened by yesterday's fresh irons that corroded in him, Moby Dick seemed combinedly possessed by all the angels that fell from heaven. The wide tiers of welded tendons overspreading his broad white forehead beneath the transparent skin looked knitted together, as head-on he came churning his tail among the boats, and once more flailed them apart, spilling out the irons and lances from the two mates' boats, and dashing in one side of the upper part of their bows, but leaving a halves almost without a scar. While Daggoo and Tashtego were stopping the strained planks, as the whales swimming out from them, turned and showed one entire flank as he shot by them again. At that moment a quick cry went up, lashed round and round to the fish's back, pinioned in the turns and upon turns in which during the past night the whale had reeled the involutions of the line around him. The half-torn body of the Parsee was seen, his sable raiment frayed to shreds, his distended eyes turned full upon old Ahab. The harpoon dropped from his hand. Be fooled, be fooled! Drawing in a long, lean breath. Aye, Parsee, I see thee again. Aye, and thou goest before, and this is the hearse that thou didst promise. But I hold thee to the last letter of thy word. Where is the second hearse? Away, mates, to the ship. Those boats are useless now. Repair them if you can in time, and return to me. If not, Ahab is enough to die. Down, men, the first thing that offers but to jump from this boat I stand in, that thing I harpoon. Ye are not other men, but my arms and legs, and so obey me. Where's the whale? Gone down again? It's really interesting the way Melville uses this last chapter to present Ahab's hubris, so vividly, and how he relates that back to the idea of fate and the idea that someone has a destiny. Because the only reason Ahab truly fails is because he feels this unending need to follow and fulfill his destiny, and he believes so strongly in Fedula's prophecy from chapter 117. To recap that prophecy, it's the idea that he has to see the two hearses, one that is not man-made and one that is made from American wood, that Fedula is going to die before him, which he sees happen. He recognizes this sign, and then the idea that only him can kill him. And it's that last promise that he holds on to after everything else, because instead of recognizing that rope plays a key point in the whaling ships, he assumes that it means hanging. He makes this assumption about his fate and continues to explore his sheer confidence in destroying Moby Dick. So basically, he is given every possible chance. Melville gives him every possible chance to say, maybe this isn't a good idea. I should go home and be alive. But instead, he responds to Starbuck by ignoring him. Starbuck is basically please, we do not need to do this. He's weeping. He's crying, which in this book that is basically the epitome of the masculine journey is pretty bizarre. You don't picture the whaler going out and weeping on the ship because he's afraid, but when you're chasing the white whale and there's no hope of survival, of course you're going to be afraid. And so basically, Starbuck is crying to him. Starbuck is serious about this. He's please, we don't have to do this. You could live. It could be okay. We still have a chance. And he's been at this for 3 days. He realized that it was going poorly the first day, and then the second day it went badly again. The Parsee died, and he knew what that meant. He knew that that meant he was also going to die soon, that he was no longer immortal, but he refused to acknowledge it, which is really interesting on Melville's part, because as the reader, you kind of get frustrated. It's puzzling to watch him continue to ignore his, inevitable death. And I know in my notes I compared it to watching a horror movie when you see the character walk toward the door and you're please do not open this door. This is such a bad idea. I wish you could hear me. That's exactly what is happening to Captain Ahab through every element in this book, and yet somehow he still chooses to ignore all of them, and it kills me to read this. And it continues, basically he's supernaturally willed to do this. He mentions in the book that he does not actually think that it's a good idea at some point, but that he has to do this. And it's this reliance on fate that I think Melville is really condemning through this chapter and through the book in its entirety, because sure, he falls victim to his fate, to his destiny, and to a prophecy, but I think this victimization is important to acknowledge, because he wouldn't have become a victim to his fate if he didn't believe so strongly in it. If he had just decided that it was a better idea for him to go home and do something else in revenge, it would have been fine. But he has chosen this as his own fate. So yeah, it is very interesting, because in this chapter, right after the excerpt that I read, and within the end of it, he realizes that he's going to die. He sees the Parsi's dead body. Like, it's a brutal image of the Parsi's dead body with his distended eyes looking directly at Captain Ahab. And he says, oh no, like you're right there. I've seen you. You rose again. You said you would do that. This is going to be bad. This is the prophecy unfolding. And he's like, but we haven't seen the second hers, and like only him can kill me anyway, so really everything is fine. Like, don't even, like, that was just the first hers. And as the chapter goes on, he keeps like fulfilling this prophecy. He's like, oh, the ship is the second hearse, and then he's like, well, only him can kill me, and immediately him kills him, like immediately. And so you would think that as Captain Ahab, you would recognize that all these signs are happening very close together, but he doesn't. And it's almost like he does, but he's like, well, the prophecy, well, my fate is to not die. And he has decided this fate. No one has decided this fate for him. Like, God himself did not come down and say, Captain Ahab, you are going to slay Moby Dick, and you are not going to die doing it. Fedula said that. He doesn't know if Fedula actually knows what he's talking about. Apparently Fedula did. But basically he's chosen this fate, and that fate leads to his death, along with his like sheer utter confidence in this idea of fate. If he didn't have this hubris, this, I want to use a word other than confidence, but this like naive belief that he can do anything, if he didn't have that, maybe he would have ignored fate and gone on with his life, but he's not even worried about that. He's just worried about this destiny of his. So Melville, I think, it definitely is using that to condemn the idea that man has a destiny he must complete, which goes back a lot to Emerson's idea of man thinking. Like, I don't think anywhere in Emerson's writings he suggests that man can only do one thing. He is suggesting that you should go out and like see the world, but also you matter, and taking revenge on a whale is your sole personality trait and sole purpose in the world seems like exactly the opposite of what Emerson would want man thinking to be. Like, I think very much Ahab stops being like Ahab who is killing whales on a whale ship and turns into like the whale killer Captain Ahab, like the Moby Dick hunter Captain Ahab, which is everything Emerson warns against, which is interesting. He also just isn't thinking, like, aside from Emerson's idea of man thinking, Ahab isn't thinking, period. And so that is a really interesting romantic subversion, I would say. It changes around this romantic idea of you can be your own person and do your own thing. Romanticism, while it did have religious tendencies, was very humanist in nature. It was very much like you as yourself, as a person, can do whatever you set out to do and should. And this really like switches that around, if you will. And going back to Emerson, it's basically the perfect subversion of the Greek hero epic. He makes this almost hero's journey. Of course, it's not exact, but he is following this fate of his, and he has this destiny that he's trying to fulfill. And just like in most Greek tragedies, his hubris gets in the way, but his hubris in this case is his actual belief in fate. And when you think about Emerson, and he is telling his readers to throw off the classics and make their own stories, this is a great example of that. This is Melville creating something that is modern and romantic in nature. I would say contemporary and not modern, but contemporary in nature. No longer do we have to hold on to these like binds of fate and destiny. We can make our own paths, and we can choose the paths that are best for us instead of going out and killing the whale that we know is going to kill us if we try to kill it, and holding these false beliefs and prophecy that suggest to us that we can't die. And I think that is so successfully romantic, and I love it. I love this book.